was the SETC chair for 18 years. And with that, let me turn it over to the current SETC chair, Dennis Bowden.
Thanks, Kevin. Well, I think we can just get right into the presentations. So we'll just start there. So the first presentation is Nicola from New Jersey Department of Labor, and she's going to bring us up to speed on what's going on in the New Jersey labor market. Nicole?
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Today we'll talk an overview on the labor economy, in the labor areas. And I can't see my slides, which I typically tend to see it as a note. So I'll try to follow here. Feel free to ask questions during the presentation. I know some of the stuff I say, it's hard to remember in terms of questions on economic data and information. Thank you. That I'm happy to answer during the presentation. Just a little bit about us. We're under the Office of Information and Office of Research and Information under the wonderful Assistant Commissioner Leslie Hirsch. What we do is we gather information on businesses, occupations, and employment, and then we provide it to internal and external customers to help them improve their decision making. So feel free to reach out to us. We're always happy to help and provide data. Let's start with the presentation, which we start with an overview of the labor market areas. And we have a tight labor market. I think if I ask around the room how many people here that it's hard to find employees, I think many people will raise their hands because it is hard to find employees when we have a low unemployment rate of around 3 to 4%, which is considered to be healthy. We don't want something around 5% because that tells us that employees can't find jobs. But we also don't want something around 0% because that tells us that businesses can't expand their operation and find new employees. So either extremes we don't want. We want to be around 3 to 4%. That's kind of a typical healthy unemployment rate. Personal income has grown, but when we look at the period that we have, inflation has eroded that growth until recently. We have seen a little bit of a difference, but up to recently, inflation has basically eaten up all the wage gains we see in the market. Top industries, which is nice to see in New Jersey. We have a diverse industries. It's healthcare and social assistance, retail, trade, and others like manufacturing, accommodation, and food. And we are a diverse state, which is actually much better. And I'll show you a table where we see at least 9 industries in the top 3 for labor areas. Top occupations, we have retail salespersons, medical, I can't see it. Material movers, and cashiers. What tells us is that the top occupations require on-the-job training or certifications. We don't need the traditional educational system. When we step beyond the top 3, we actually see that there's a hybrid that New Jersey actually offers. On the strength of ours, we offer a diverse occupations and industries. Thank you. We start first with talking about the unemployment, where I mentioned we're around a healthy unemployment rate overall. And what we see is we want to see this decline, and we want to talk about the outliers. But before I talk about this, I just want to explain the graphs. The y-axis shows the unemployment rate. The x-axis shows us the years. And we show something before and after the pandemic, 2018 up to 2022. And typically when we look at the graphs, we want to see the trend that they're moving around what the state's rate was during the pandemic. It was around 16%, and now the state is around 3.5%. There are outliers, especially during COVID, in terms of in-person services that were hit the hardest in terms of job growth during the pandemic, because we could no longer go and, for example, we see Atlantic, where the casinos were hit very hard because we can no longer spend our money and go play. The in-person services were hindered by COVID. So what happened, though, what was unprecedented by the federal government, where they allocated trillions of dollars to us to use from home. So businesses got money, government, consumers, households, and households already had a healthy balance sheet. So we were getting money on top of the money we had, and we started spending because we could order everything within a click. That was unprecedented in other recessions. We had a healthy balance sheet, and then we were getting money to help us cope with COVID, to help businesses cope with COVID, especially businesses who couldn't move in swiftly from work from the office to work from home. And the other one, the figure on the right, so we see on the left is Atlantic, but on the right we see Passaic, which is a little bit higher than others, and that's because they rely on in-person services like retail trade. So the unemployment rate was higher. There we go. And the next two figures overall shows a similar trend to the state, except Mercer County. Mercer County, the rate was around only 10% because the government is located, Trenton, think of Trenton, located in Mercer County. And we were able to move from work from the office to work from home fairly swiftly. I can speak, I worked for the Treasury, where we were able to move, to create a plan. And I actually wrote it up with a colleague of mine, Amanda. We wrote a plan to work from home, and within 2 weeks we executed it. We moved really quickly, so we were able to work from home and not lose our job, and hence the unemployment rate was a little bit lower in Mercer County compared to other areas. Personal income. We have three tables, and the first column shows us the area, the second column shows us in 2018, and the third column shows us 2021. And the three tables, the first one shows us less than 50,000 individuals who fall in that income bracket. The second one shows us between 50 to 100,000, and the third table shows us over 100,000. The red indicates growth, meaning that we had, let's say, Bergen, over 100,000 increased by 2%. But as I mentioned before, the inflation eroded that gain. Inflation during that time was around 7%. But growth here we see around 2%, 3%. It's not significant to outpace inflation. So here's where I actually skipped one. Okay, thank you. I can't see the top industries. It's very, very far from me, thinking that the presentation will be closer. But, oh, thank you. Thank you so much. The top industries in New Jersey is what we want to see. This is part of our strength, where we see diversity in our industries, meaning that we don't rely on one industry. Think of, for example, Hawaii, where they have few industries and they rely heavily on tourism. That's not the case in New Jersey. We have really diverse industry, as the table shows. And it shows that when we look at category by labor area, we have top 9 industries, from healthcare, retail trade, manufacturing, transportation, accommodation, professional services, finance and insurance, administrative and waste services, and wholesale trade. So we're diverse as part of our strength. And this is important to see. And we offer, as a state, many industries for our talented labor force. And the yellow, just so I can indicate, the yellow indicates part of the top 5 for the area. And we do the same thing for there you go. The top 3 occupations in New Jersey by labor area, and again, the yellow indicates that those are the top 3 for each labor area. Again, very diverse. We have retail salespersons, material movers, cashiers, packers, registered nurses, waitresses and waiters, home health and personal care, business operations. So we have a hybrid between jobs that require training on the job and then between jobs that require advanced educations. Again, very healthy to see for New Jersey that not only we offer diverse industries, but we also offer diverse occupations. So people with different backgrounds can come and find a job in the state. Very critical to think about. And think about other states when you go and travel. Like when I travel to New Orleans to see how their industry's there, or Miami, they focus on a few. We're very strong. So when one industry declines, another industry grows. And to give an example, retail trade in New Jersey, if we compare it to February 2020, it declined by 1%. However, warehousing increased by 15%. What does that tell us? That could indicate that people are moving to maybe warehousing because it could be a better job, better pay, better benefits. So we have that power. If 1% is nothing, it's still retail trade is very stable, but it's our strength that we see. Okay, if one industry is weakened a little bit, another one is very, very strong. And that adds another important point that I always make in these type of presentations. I go around, talk about the employment in New Jersey and what's happening in the past since 1990 up to today. We don't see automation taking over the jobs. Thus far, and I know it's a little bit ironic, I'm talking on the night of the debt ceiling, so tomorrow all of this might change, but as of now, as of today, automation did not take over jobs. In fact, what we see, it's an accessory. It's another tool in our toolbox to work and execute tasks. And for the people on the net, on Teams, it takes time to move from one slide to the next, so please forgive us for that. Top job postings, this is something we look at always to see what type of skills, what type of jobs are needed in New Jersey. It just gives us a direction of what's happening within the economy. And we see that top job postings are healthcare and social assistance, retail trade, manufacturing, accommodation and food services, educational services, and professional services. This is very important because it shows us the diversity of the jobs in New Jersey. It offers any person with any background can find a job in New Jersey, and that's the power of seeing something like this. I want to add another interesting fact about manufacturing. Since 2013, it has been stable, or a little bit, we see a little bit of growth. This reversed the trend that was we were losing 2 to 3 to 5% every year of jobs. Why did that happen? It happened because many businesses realized that the U.S. provides a stable political institutions. Regardless of what we see online or on TV, we are politically very stable. And that's not found in other countries. Sometimes if a government is upset at another country, they slap tax evasion or they jail people. We don't have that. We don't wake up one night and our rights as businesses, as people are gone like this. That's not found in every part of the world. We're very, very stable. And not only that, we provide a lot of stability in terms of employment and labor force. And just to add on what I mean by it for New Jersey, the percentage of population with a bachelor's degree or higher, for us, it's very high. It's 41.5%, which is part of the top 5 states in the country. For the nation is around 30, 33%, so it's very, very high. And then when you look by the county, it hovers between 27% all the way to 57%. And why is that the case? It is because we have wonderful institutions that produce top talent. Think of Rutgers, Princeton, TCNJ, Monmouth, Rowan, so many different schools. We have at least, I believe, between community colleges and four-year colleges around over 60. I went, for example, to Mercer County Community College, then to TCNJ, then to Monmouth, and now I'm at Rutgers. So it's like these type of institutions help us move and produce top talent, and we see that throughout New Jersey. And then lighter shades is because the industries there don't require advanced or traditional school. If you think about it, those are dominated by retirement or shore, so their type of training or certifications are different. Yes?
In those lower level jobs.
I think what this tells us is that because of the tight labor market, do you want to ask again? No, I can repeat the question. I think if I understand it correctly is, do you see contradiction by looking at this and then the vacancy and low unemployment rate, correct? High unemployment rate for low.
Those who are well educated are not taking
Yeah, I think that if typically somebody access educational attainment, they are expected to get a better job. I think that low-paying jobs are now paying better than expected. Obviously, our minimum wage helps, the laws that were instituted, and then the just market forces. In fact, one of Indeed or one of those type of websites about 6 months ago had an article that when we look for a job, we no longer look for a job $15. It's $20 or above. And that shows the power of labor. Another article by The Economist talked about how you see that now, historically, right, states were doing everything to attract businesses. Now it's the opposite. They're doing everything to maintain and encourage workers to go into the economy because we need them. We need from low jobs to advanced jobs. So it's a turning point where now labor has a lot of power at this point. And they can be picky between the jobs they choose, whether they provide minimum wage income or higher income. Move on. To conclude my discussion about what's happening around the state, the labor market is robust. This is really unprecedented what we see and what we have seen since the outset of the pandemic and the recovery. The unemployment rate is around 3.5%. It has been around 3.5% since this last summer, which is historically low. Labor force participation is 65.1%. We not only fully recovered the labor force participation, but we're higher than in the past 10 years. This is the highest rate we have ever had in the past decade. What this signals to us is that workers and people feel confident about the economy and they're entering to find jobs. This is a very positive indication about the economy and how robust the labor market, and hence they can choose which job they take and which job they don't take. The ratio of job openings to unemployment, meaning that for each unemployed, we have 1.44 jobs. This indicator has been softening, which is normal as the Federal Reserve tries to tame inflation. We're going to see some softening, or the expectation is that the next 6 months we might see some softening, but it's still it's still very robust at this point. Job growth above 2020, and we have the highest number of unemployed in terms of businesses and residents. Again, what we see today, the labor market is resilient, strong. We offer diverse industries and occupations, and at least as of today, I don't know about tomorrow and the debt ceiling, I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, which is, some of the analysts we have on staff, we were laughing that I'm giving this on the night of the debt ceiling, but again, I have full confidence in the U.S. institution and government that things will work out because our economy has worked out for so many years, and thus far I'm very, very optimistic. I'll take any questions or I'll turn it back to Dennis.
Questions for Nicole?
Yes, I have another question.
Yeah.
The question, the rate at 3.5% in New Jersey.
Yeah.
There must be a weighted factor by industry that would give some indication of where there's more stress in finding jobs than in other industries that have an impact on that 3.5%. Obviously in numbers, but also in vacancies.
So we want the unemployment rate to be around 3-4%. We don't want it to be above 5% because that tells us employees can't find jobs. But we also don't want it to be 0% because that tells us businesses can't expand and innovate because they can't find workers to execute the tasks. But just to kind of highlight a few things, I don't know. I think this is a very complicated question, a very sophisticated questions that I would need to think about a little bit more. But looking at the table in front of me, which is showing employment in February 2020, pre-pandemic employment, and employment right now, we are outpacing 2020 in almost every industry except a few that require in-person, such as retail trade, arts and entertainment and recreation, other services. So it's hard to look at these numbers and try to identify those small areas that might be struggling. But overall, on aggregate, we're actually doing very, very well. And if somebody wants a job, according to the data, they should be able to find one.
My experience in healthcare and recent conversations have indicated that there's a great deal of stress in finding vacant positions and qualified positions.
Mm-hmm.
And the timetable for creating qualified personnel is so long that it maintains the vacancy rate with pressure on salaries to be increased, putting further pressure on bottom lines.
That's an excellent point, actually. And it brings to mind one industry that we're struggling, which is healthcare, because as we age, we need more workers. And I know that the administration, the commissioner have keen interest to work on this and try to help put people through the proper training to get them into jobs like registered nurses. We do know that that's a bit different. That is a different way to look at it in terms of demand, like where are demands now and moving forward. And healthcare is a big, big area. Home aid is another big area where it's hard to fill the vacancies because of lack of talent, and not lack of talent in terms of they don't have the talent, but lack of number of people who are willing to do it. And I know that there is keen interest in addressing stuff like that, and that's an excellent point, that when you look at certain industries like healthcare, the vacancy and time to fill takes longer. Thank you. Thank you. That was really good.
Any other questions? You can always count on Bob for really good questions.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay. No, thank you, Nicole. Next, the overview of WIOA and public workforce development systems in New Jersey. And that presentation is going to be made by Lori Harrington and Brittany Donovan. And you guys have the podium.
Good morning. So for this segment of the presentation, my colleague Lori Harrington and I will be talking about an important piece of current legislation that establishes and maintains the workforce development system in the United States. So the public workforce development system provides resources, services, and tools to support individuals and businesses in developing and maintaining a workforce to support a thriving economy throughout the nation. It benefits job seekers, incumbent workers, employers, and communities as well. The Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act was signed into law on July 22, 2014, and replaces the earlier Workforce Investment Act of 1998. With this piece of legislation, Congress designed WIOA to 1. Strengthen and improve our nation's public workforce system. 2. Help get Americans, including youth, and those experiencing significant barriers to employment into high-quality jobs and careers. 3. Help job seekers access employment, education, training, and support services to succeed in the labor market. 4. Match employers with the skilled workers they need to compete in a global economy. And 5. Bring about increased coordination among federal workforce development and related programs. WIOA operates under 4 programmatic titles. Title I authorizes job training and related services to unemployed and underemployed individuals and establishes the governance and accountability system for WIOA. It helps job seekers by providing career counseling, job search assistance, and job training. Title II authorizes education services to assist adults in improving their basic skills, completing secondary education, and transitioning into post-secondary education. Services assist with improving basic skills in reading, writing, math, and English proficiency, attaining a high school diploma or equivalency, and transitioning to employment or post-secondary education and training. Title III amends the Wagner-Pazer Act of 1933 to integrate employment services into the one-stop system operated by WIOA. It helps job seekers, including those getting unemployment benefits. Services include assisting job seekers in finding work and helping employers with recruitment. Title IV authorizes employment related to vocational rehabilitation services for individuals with disabilities and integrates vocational rehabilitation into the one-stop system. It helps individuals with disabilities maximize their employability, independence, and integration into the workplace as well as society. Programs offer comprehensive and individualized vocational rehabilitation, occupational training, as well as assistive technologies. The public workforce system is overseen by the U.S. Department of Labor, Employment, and Training Administration. WIOA funding flows through state agencies into the state workforce development boards. In the case of New Jersey, this would be NJDOL into the SETC. The SETC develops the vision and strategic plan for the state, provides leadership to local boards, and informs the local strategies. Services largely are provided through one-stop career centers, though some partner organizations provide service as well. These include community colleges as well as other community-based organizations. There are 17 local workforce development boards in the state of New Jersey, and they are divided geographically by region. Some workforce development boards oversee multi-county areas, such as in the north and the south. And in some instances, a large city may have its own workforce development center, which is the case in the city of Newark. I will now pass it off to my colleague, Lori Harrington, to talk about the workforce development boards.
Thanks, Brittany. Good morning, everybody. Since many of you in this meeting and online are probably new members to the SETC or are using this session and this meeting to get reacquainted with being a member of the SETC, we thought it was important to give you a sort of general overview of WIOA, which is the legislation that oversees the public workforce development system. And so now that Brittany has kind of given you a general understanding of WIOA at large, I want to take a few minutes to talk to you all as members of the SETC about your role. The State Workforce Development Board in New Jersey, as you know, is the State Employment and Training Commission. The State Workforce Development Board is established by the governor, to help develop and continuously improve the workforce development system. Essentially, the State Workforce Board establishes, in coordination with the governor, the vision for full implementation of WIOA in the state and oversees the local implementation of that vision in the local areas. The State Workforce Development Boards are comprised of at least 51% of members from the business community. They're led by a business representative. And if you look around at your colleagues on the SETC, you'll notice that the board members are comprised of reps from education, labor, state agencies, and community-based organizations. Thank you, Gary. So with that understanding of what the SETC is, let's talk about what is your role as an SETC board member. Essentially, your role as an SETC board member is to be thoughtful about the information, like Nicole just shared with us, about the labor market and about workforce programs in New Jersey. So to be thoughtful about that information shared and the perspectives provided, as the board works as a collective to advise the governor and state agencies on the state's workforce development strategy and investments. Your role is to promote and advance the state's vision and the state plan with business, labor, and community representatives. Each board member should be able to speak to the state's vision and enhance its efforts through collaboration among all these different partners. Your role is also to be an ambassador for the workforce development system. So you, as a board member, are sort of always state board members, not just during the SETC meetings, but you should also be an advocate for the system, share information about the system, listen to the community, and bring that information back to the board to inform the decisions the board has to make. You should try to remember to never take off your hat as a state workforce board member, whether you're at meetings of Chamber of Commerce, at schools, within the community, industry organizations. You should consistently serve as an ambassador for the workforce system. And state board members should actively participate in board meetings. The SETC in New Jersey has roughly 5 meetings per year. And so as a board member, you should take time to review meeting agendas, read the background material provided in advance of the meeting, to ensure that you have an understanding of the topics that are going to be covered in the meeting and can contribute to those topic areas. Next screen. Oh, I'm sorry, go back one more. Sorry, and as the slide shows, as a SETC board member, you should actively serve on the committees of the board. State boards are large. The SETC is a large board. And an effective committee structure can help members to feel more connected to the work. And the committees can meet and do their work and then bring it back to the board to make SETC meetings productive and to make the whole system function a little bit better. In New Jersey, there are 6 committees of the SETC: apprenticeship, gender parity, governance, performance, State Council on Adult Literacy, Education, and Literacy Services, and Shared Youth Vision Council. So overall, as a board, the SETC has several responsibilities. And chief among those responsibilities are really a strong focus on continuous improvement of the state's workforce development system. It also has general business, like developing a one-stop certification process and developing and implementing the state plan and setting performance measures and aligning policies to support sector strategies and career pathways. The responsibility of the board is to also create an agile system that identifies and responds quickly to the needs of focus industries and populations, and no time was that more clear than during COVID, when the workforce development system had to quickly adapt to the changing needs of the job seekers and the employers and businesses in the state. Also, a responsibility of the board is to engage employers and ensure that employers understand that they are a critical valued customer to the public workforce system and can look to the public system to meet their workforce needs. A responsibility is also to develop career pathways for New Jersey job seekers. So the system doesn't work to just connect people to jobs, but it's also to advance them in their work and set them up for a meaningful career journey. A responsibility of the board is also to strengthen the connections between those core programs that Brittany described: Title I, Job Seeker Services; Title II, Adult Literacy, etc. And then the responsibility of the board is to promote proven and promising practices. And oftentimes the Heldrick Center will be invited to present findings from our research to the SETC board members. And the knowledge sharing and learning from those presentations and from others like them, I'm sure we're not the only ones, are so important for you as members to have the latest information at your disposal in order to approach your SETC work thoughtfully. And then finally, a responsibility of the board is to effectively use technology, especially as it pertains to aligning technology with the data systems that the state agencies use to improve efficiencies, especially around things like performance accountability reporting. So that was an overview of the SETC as a state board and also your role as an SETC member. And now that you understand your roles and responsibilities as members of the SETC, we're going to take a few minutes to sort of let you know about the resources that you have here in New Jersey to help inform your thinking and to ensure that you have the information that you need in order to make the best decisions.
Thanks, Laurie. Really appreciate that, letting us know all the responsibilities that we have. So I really appreciate that. Mr. Carl Van Horn.
Yes, hi. Good
Your
morning.
turn.
Good morning, everyone, and those out there. I'm the director of the Heldrick Center for Workforce Development, and I'm happy you're here today at our center, which was established by the state of New Jersey, this building, and supported with a generous gift from John Heldrick and his wife, Regina. John, for those who don't know him, was one of those greatest generation people you all hear about and talk about, who World War II veteran, Battle of the Bulge, GI Bill educated at Rutgers University at night, then works his way up to the ranks and becomes a member of the executive committee of Johnson & Johnson. He was famous for the person who helped convince Johnson & Johnson during the Tylenol scandal to take all the drugs off the shelf immediately. For those of you who are too young to remember that, people were poisoned by that, and John said, we have to immediately act. It cost him millions and millions of dollars that helped establish that organization as one acting ethically and properly in the context of the crisis. So we were proud to work with John for many years, and of course grateful for his support. And over time, go to the next slide, which I can't control here, maybe I can do it. There we go. That's some of the lovely people that work here. We've already met Kevin. Andrew Hetling is a professor here and is the associate director. Lori, you've also heard from. Renee, you'll hear from later. And Stephanie also, both of whom are leading important components of the health system. There we go. That's our building issue. And that was, again, as I said before, built with the support of the legislature. So over the period of time that we've been in existence now, 25 years, we've done hundreds of projects and published many, many reports online and printed, and had many hundreds of events here at the center. We've had over this period of time nearly 100 people work here and 60 students, graduate students, undergraduate students that work. We're now a staff of about 25, I think that's right, and maybe a dozen students, one way or the other, that work with us. This is the beautiful people that work here, and they represent a wide variety of skills and backgrounds, as is befits a workforce center that really covers many different issues, from complex data analysis to studies of disability policy to understanding the landscape of the American economy. And just later this month, we are putting out a major report that we've done, funded by the Urban Institute, examining racial discrimination in the workplace, which will be released, I think, on June 28th. We've worked all over the United States. I think there's about 37, 39 states here. Of course, we love New Jersey first and foremost, and so we've done a great deal of our work here. But I think our work around the country helps us understand what else is going on, what innovations might be taking place, and bring that information back to New Jersey, and vice versa. Many of the innovations occurred here in New Jersey, we take around the country. A good example of that, the innovative work in modernizing the UI system here in New Jersey with the State Labor Department and the Office of Innovation during this administration has gotten much national attention. And next week we are having a seminar on that with folks from around the country. And please sign up for that if you're interested. We'll make sure that information is made available to you. These are a list of many of the clients, the people that have funded us. Of course, the Department of Labor, but also in New Jersey, but also the U.S. Department of Education, U.S. Department of Labor, National Science Foundation, many foundations around the country and in New Jersey. We have currently a budget of about $7 or $8 million. Is that right, Kevin? And over this period of time, we've raised well over $130 million in support to work in the center. First and foremost, our emphasis is on assisting people to gain employment or advance in their employment, regardless of where they are in the process. So we work with students young people who were not stopped out of high school, help them get into an apprenticeship program so they can make a good living. On the other end, we've helped analyze complex PhD programs and how we can improve those entering into the field of nanotechnology. So as you can see, we really span the entire spectrum of the labor market, and that trying to improve government interventions make those more efficient. And then, of course, it manages a wide range of different disciplines. There we go. This project, which you'll hear from later from my colleague Stephanie Walsh, is the state data system. In this case, what we bring together is the state's information about unemployment insurance and wage records with education, labor, higher education, and other interventions to help inform policymakers about how programs are performing and how we can improve them. Also inform the public so if they're looking for information, they can find out more about the success of particular strategies. In the United States, I think it's, you can forgive me for being bragging about us, but I think we're certainly amongst the best in the country, recognized by many around the country as the state of New Jersey and the Helping Center for doing independent, thorough data analysis using administrative records. And this also provides opportunities for scholars and students to do research on these topics. I'm going to skip this because you're next, right? Okay. So, any quick questions for me?
Questions for Carl?
Okay. Let me introduce.
I have
yes.
one question. From time to time, my local Rotary asks for speakers, and I've not really ever thought of having to consider a presentation about SETC or the Heldrick Center. And I'm wondering first if you consider it presentations at that level, and secondly, whether those of us who are local would be bold enough to be given presentation materials to generally speak to local organizations like Rotaries and Elks and even the County Chamber of Commerce.
Yeah, the answer is yes. I mean, we do give speeches and presentations around the state, around the country, and in fact, I know a good deal about the Rotarians. I've spoken to them before. I don't know what your project is this year, but I know I've done that in times to align with work that the Rotarians are doing. So yes, we have to do that. So you can get in touch with me through an easy website. So let me. No other questions, Dennis? Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Let me introduce Dr. Stephanie Walsh, recently minted PhD, Rutgers University, and proud of her.
Thanks, Carl.
All right, so I'm excited to share a little bit about our New Jersey statewide data system with you all. As Carl mentioned, this is a administrative data system that the Heldrick Center houses. We are the administrative partners for the state of New Jersey. This was developed by a grant back in 2012 from the U.S. Department of Education. And it includes data from 4 of the partnering agencies in New Jersey. So Department of Education, the Office of the Secretary of Higher Education, Higher Education Student Assistance Authority, and Department of Labor and Workforce Development. And what this allows us to do is really answer those questions that we have for longitudinal outcomes of program participants, citizens of the state, who we are making investments in to see what those long-term outcomes are. So previously, while OSHI could look at post-secondary outcomes and labor could look at workforce outcomes, there wasn't this combining of the data to really look at those long-term longitudinal outcomes for program participants and others. So it allows us to answer questions like, what are those outcomes of training participants 1, 3, 5 years out? Do people who experience bouts of unemployment go back into post-secondary education? Does that happen at different rates in different periods of time, depending on the economy? Are there certain programs that people are more or less likely to go back into? So these are the types of questions that we can answer on behalf of the SETC using this data from the 4 current participating agencies that we have in the New Jersey statewide data system. A brief overview of a couple of the products we have on our website right now. One is the Higher Education Outcomes Dashboard. So this is looking at students who completed post-secondary education in New Jersey what are their earnings and employment experiences within the state after they complete. So right now you can look at completions overall. How many of those students who graduated are working in the state? What are their earnings over time, so a few years out after college? You can look at it by major. What are the differences based on what programs they're completing? And then by demographic characteristics and institution. We're currently updating this dashboard to have more granular level data by institution, so you can really dig into those demographic characteristics by institution. Another that we have on our website right now is the Benefits of Education report. And this is looking at experiences of those who complete education in New Jersey. What are the differences in long-term outcomes in the employment of those individuals over time? So by degree level, is it worth it to get a college education? Comparing the return on investment that they're making of paying for college versus what those who only have a high school education are earning in the state. And then comparing that across the different majors and levels over time as well. So looking, 1, 3, 5, and then projecting out 10, 20 years to see what the return on investment is to them in terms of their own earnings compared to the cost of education. And then what's the return on investment to the state in terms of tax revenue that's being brought in by those who graduate and continue to be employed in the state. So it's an exciting time for the New Jersey statewide data system. There are a lot of projects going on. Here's a sample of the few upcoming products that you'll see on our report in the next few months. That's the unemployment insurance outcomes dashboard, looking at those who had periods of unemployment. What were their earnings after their period of unemployment? Were they re-enrolling in post-secondary education? Looking at several other programs, dual enrollment experiences. What are their post-secondary completion rates and outcomes? Is it different from those who don't participate in dual enrollment experiences? Looking at the Educational Opportunity Fund, those post-secondary experiences. And one exciting project we have going on right now is the Multi-State Post-Secondary Report. You heard a little bit about our interstate work before, where we're able to go beyond the state borders to see those students who graduated within New Jersey and then moved out of state. What kinds of fields are they working in? What are their employment outcomes like? So again, these are the types of questions that we're able to answer and produce for the SETC and the participating state partners to really answer those questions and build evidence around policymaking. I will pass it on to Lori to talk a little bit more about our evaluation work.
Any questions of Stephanie before we go?
Just one. During, and I've written it down because it needs me to write it down. During high inflation and unemployment, we've seen, of course, during COVID, did you see any shift from high school grads from 4-year to 2-year community colleges, and whether a longitudinal study can demonstrate performance and transfer to 4-year college success and or employment success?
So we don't have that much data like post-COVID yet, but we are digging into that now with current analyses. So I can't give any highlights of the trends yet, but those are some of the research questions we're asking. One is the employment scarring effects during the pandemic. So how do those who graduated around the pandemic compare to those who graduated around the Great Recession? And we do see a lot of differences in terms of their connection to the labor market and then whether or not they're enrolling in post-secondary education. So we are seeing, increases in post-secondary enrollment right after the Great Recession. There's a lot of turmoil we're still dealing through with the data, though.
Thank you. Any other questions? All right. Lori, back to you.
Thank you, Dennis. Thank you, Stephanie. Okay, so in addition to the New Jersey State Data System, the Heldrick Center has a unit that's focused entirely on evaluation of workforce development programs and policies. The Heldrick Center has done over 40 program evaluations, and we have a staff of around 8 researchers who focus on evaluation of workforce programs and policies. The goal of the evaluations is really to assess the effectiveness of these programs at meeting their stated goals. around participation, employment, wages, and also to provide some descriptive analysis around who participates in these programs. And our clients and our funders for these evaluations range from state agencies, like NJDOL is a big funder, but we also do work for the federal USDOL. We do work for private foundations and for private industry. And so our evaluations are both quantitative and qualitative, using qualitative research methods. So we really are on the ground doing structured interviews with the people who make the programs work, people who are setting the policy. We're doing focus groups with the job seekers who take advantage of the programs. And to give you an example, just to give you a couple of highlights of some of those programs, evaluations that we've done, from the state perspective, the Heldrick Center is the evaluator for the annual WIOA evaluations. So, so far we've conducted 2 program evaluations under WIOA. The first one focused on WIOA services during program year 2019, and we studied the integration of Title I job seeker services with Title II adult literacy services. So the extent to which those systems work together, and job seekers travel through the system from Title, and are referred to the Title I services once they enter adult literacy services. So that evaluation was focused on program year 2019. We've also just completed and I think plan to present the findings of program year 2020 next month to the SETC. And for this evaluation, we looked at services that were provided under WIOA during 2020, which was the COVID year, and how the public workforce development system adapted to the quick need to adapt to a virtual model of service delivery or a hybrid service model of delivery. Another evaluation that we conducted for New Jersey Department of Labor was the evaluation of the Community Library Adult Literacy Career Pathway Program. And that was a state grant provided to 13 state and local libraries across the state to offer basic education and digital literacy training. And so we did an intensive evaluation of how people fared in those programs, who participated, and the extent to which they achieved outcomes around measurable skill gain and credential attainment and program completion. For the federal government, we are the evaluator of the USDOL's Office of Disability Employment's EARN initiative, the Employment Assistance Resource Network. And that's an initiative funded by USDOL. It's housed at Cornell University, and it provides technical assistance to employers around the country around their disability and workforce initiatives. And so the Heldrick Center is evaluating the extent to which the program is meeting their performance goals, but also the extent to which they're engaging employers and they're having an impact on disability hiring with the employers that are availing themselves of the EARN's resources. And then to give you an example of an evaluation that we do for private foundations, we are, and we have been for over a decade, the evaluator, the independent third-party evaluator for the Kessler Foundation's signature grant programs. And so Kessler's signature grant programs are somewhere in the area of $250,000 to $500,000 grants to community-based organizations around the country who are developing innovative policies and strategies to get people with disabilities into the workforce. And so as the evaluator, we have been doing a process. We're looking at their program models and how effective they are at meeting their program goals, and then also their outcomes. So how are these programs faring at getting folks into employment and keeping them in employment? And because of that long-standing relationship that we've had conducting those evaluations, the Heldrick Center has developed a really expertise in the area of disability employment and can share that information to the field. So that's just a flavor for some of the evaluation work we do. But again, to go back to the comments I made earlier, the learning and the knowledge sharing that the Heldrick Center can provide because of these evaluations to the SETC to inform your decision making is important. So thank you. I'll turn it over to my colleague.
First of all, any questions for Lori? I'll just make a comment here. Incredibly influenced by how good you guys are and everything that you do and the impact that you make in all of these different forums and everything. It's awesome. Thank you. Okay, we're down to Renee.
Hello. Carl, you're a lot taller than me. Lori, you could pull it off, but I don't think I can. So I'm Renee Edwards, and I am on the policy and program implementation side of things here at the Heldrick Center. And I wanted to take a few minutes today to, do you have the clicker? We'll see if I can make it work any better. No, that's okay. I can just stand here and talk. All right, well, I'll talk. You try to figure this out. Working together, teamwork. And so I wanted to take just a few minutes today to tell you about some of the things that we're doing on the policy and program implementation side of things here at Heldrick Center. One of the things that I've learned in my last about decade of working in doing program research and evaluation and implementation is that implementation is always better when it's informed by research. And that's one of the things that we really strive to do here at the Heldrick Center. And the other thing that we always do is take the opportunity to dig into research while we're doing implementation as well. So even though you can't see the slides, I really wanted to take a few minutes to highlight one of the projects that we're working on here, and that is we are implementing a certified home health aid project in concert with the New Jersey Department of Human Services, Department of Aging Services. So we're working together with them to do something that Nicole actually talked about earlier in her presentation. And that is we really want to better prepare the New Jersey workforce to have certified home health aides, slides, yay, to really get into an area that New Jersey is trying to make a concerted effort in, and that is allowing people who want to age in their homes. So in order to do that, thank you, we actually need a certified home health aid workforce to do so. So to give you a little bit of an overview of the project, you're right, it is hard to see those slides. Certified home health aides really provide in-home care to people who want to age in their homes. And what we did first is we really kind of took a close look at the existing workforce in New Jersey. And this existing workforce is predominantly women. The average wage is around $15 an hour. The education is on the lower side. We have a lot of immigrants that are in this workforce. And so one of the things that we really wanted to do was really dig into this and understand, where the workforce is at and what we can do to help increase this workforce. Technical difficulties, they just follow me. So one of the things that we decided to do is, this is the low involvement of people in home health aid, the workforce, is not just a result of training. And so, I've been around this for a long time, and I've seen that the first thing years ago, almost eight or 10 years ago, people were throwing great training at certified home health aides to try to increase the population in the workforce. And the trainings were excellent, but we can't just train our way out of this problem, right? We have to look at some of the other things. If we have excellent trainings, what else can we do? So what we're doing is we're working with the state to pilot 3 pilots that kind of try to get at some of these pain points, right? So we're looking at how can we offer wraparound services and scholarships to people so that they can attend the amazing trainings? Can we target recruitment at the types of people who are not currently involved in the workforce? Can we go to high school students in vocational technical schools? Can we partner with them to make this a better pathway for younger students to enter healthcare? Are there other things that we can do for incumbent workers that are already in CHHA? Can we help them with more tools and resources like dementia training and mental health first aid training? Are there other things that we can do that really kind of get at these problems? So one of the things that we try to do here is we try to involve research in our implementation. And we also use the implementation process to work in concert with the research and evaluation side to make these situations better. And we're hoping through, this project with the state that really we can dig into some of these issues and work together with them in collaboration with the state and other organizations to help this workforce increase. Does anyone have any questions?
Hey, Bob. One of the aid sites that one of my family members looks toward from time to time is care.com. It's a popular babysitting site that those who are interested use. Is there any plan to consider collaboration with those who are looking at that site to consider some kind of a certification through care.com type organization?
Yeah, well, I mean, you bring up a valid point. One of the things that we're doing through this project is kind of a mapping of all the places out there that people are, accessing this type of care. Where are the overlaps? How are people thinking about not only joining the workforce, but also utilizing the workforce? And you're right, that's one of the avenues. And so I think what this project's going to do is really give us the opportunity to sort of dig into some of those things that are not kind of traditionally done in programs that are trying to implement or increase the workforce. So yeah, very, very valid point, and one of the things we're looking at for sure. Anything else? All right, thanks.
Thanks, Renee. Okay, that brings us to the end of our presentations. Under closing remarks, it's just, I said this earlier, but it is just so significant that the Heldrick Center and all of the different things that they're into and the value that that creates for us in New Jersey. So I just consider this a really good opportunity for the SETC members. And I know we had 40-some people on the line, so I'll just ask, is there anybody online who have questions or a question? One thing is that we are going to provide the sheets for everybody who wants them, right, Gary? And okay, we'll send those right after the meeting. And again, it's a treasure trove of information, and I think it's very useful to all of us in the seats that we sit in. Any questions before we move on to the closing remark here? Because of our, we had to push this SETC meeting out to today, but we had a meeting scheduled for June 14th. That is no longer going to take place. We're looking for a date at the end of July. So we will give you that information at that time. Yes? Oh. One comment from the beginning? Oh, yes. Oh, yes, I'm sorry. Thanks, Gary. I don't know what I would do without you by my side. Yes, there was somebody who up front said that they wanted to address the commission. So the floor is open for that person. Right. Well, I think we're going to call it quits because nobody is responding to that. So thank you very, very much. Again, thanks, Nicole. Thanks for the whole team from Heldrick. Just amazing day, and I can tell you it is very, very helpful to all of us, who work in the seats that we're working in. So thank you very much. That was it.